Welcome everyone to this late episode, right? It is, what is today? Thursday. Sorry, I've I have just been I've had meetings practically all week and just a lot of different stuff going on, and so I wanted to talk about this. This is actually I did a video on this Monday or Tuesday, and about freight fraud, and I wanted to kind of touch on this again because I've gotten more phone calls, I've gotten more emails, and now more posts within the group in regards to brokers and carriers getting scammed. Okay, and so before I kind of get into some of that, the vetting software that we use has some numbers that I think are quite interesting. In 2024, there were 914,719 fraudulent inbound emails that were blocked, preventing critical business interruptions. Along with that, there was 9,501 identity alerts reported. There were flagging issues such as identity theft, double brokering, cargo theft, and unauthorized access. Okay. Third on that list is there was 9,829 carrier users from 75 countries stopped from getting access to, the system that we use. Last but not least, there was 109,672 FMCSA contact changes detected and monitored, safeguarding against unauthorized updates. Okay, so we use Highway. I'm not here to promote Highway or anything like that, but I find it a pretty good tool, and I know that there's carriers that aren't a fan of it. I've got owner-operator friends of mine on Facebook that kind of chewed me out for using it. They were not a fan, especially if you're ELD exempt. The setup process can take a little bit longer, but for most carriers that I've dealt with, I would say probably 99% or higher really have not had any issues with getting set up and everything. And so it's been a very valuable tool for us, and it helps stop some of these scammers and these fraudsters, these bad actors, whatever you want to call them, kind of dead in their tracks. Okay. So if you can kind of imagine, right, an MC number altered in the FMCSA's records overnight, an email change to a near perfect replica, right? They might put a hyphen in there or a dot or something that changes it. They might, even if it's a domain registered email, instead of .com, they might use .net or something. Okay. Or a carrier's identity hijacked through unauthorized record updates, right? If you remember the phishing emails, they're still going on, and we all need to be vigilant. Okay. Each of these scenarios represents a daily challenge for brokers against navigating today's freight environment. Fraud really isn't slowing down, at least not from what we're seeing. And every metric tells a story of a fraud attempt stopped in its tracks, a relationship preserved, right, and a business kept secure. So, whether you're a carrier or a broker, you really need to be vetting. Okay. And this is where I'm going to flip back to the Facebook group and the question that was posed. And I'm not going to mention the member's name because they posted anonymously, but the question was, what should I do if I booked a load with a broker? The broker ended up being a scam company. Okay. I've posted about this. I don't know why some of you aren't listening to me, but you can't check a broker after the load has been delivered. Okay, it's too late at that point. And this scenario, this is another reason why I wanted to do this video tonight, is because I've dealt with numerous carriers, owner operators, small fleet owners in the last year and a half that this fits this exact scenario, right? They went on to say, I reached out directly to the customer and they pointed me to the real broker they gave the load to. Okay, well, that's not always that easy. Okay, because the customer might not always be the shipper, number one. Number two, we had an instance where there was a very large shipper, right? They're a global brand, and trying to track down and get access to the right person, right? We tried to get a hold of accounting. We tried to get a hold of the transportation manager over there. We tried to get a hold of everybody, trying to get this sorted out because we could not find out who the originating broker on the load was. Okay, so sometimes it's relatively easy, other times it's painstakingly hard, and we literally spent, I believe it was like a week and a half, going through this process of trying to find out who the originating broker was, how to and using all these different numbers to try to reach the right person at the customer's location to try to get this resolved, right? Because I believe the driver was, his rate confirmation, I believe, was like for like $2,300 or something like that. Well, he doesn't want to eat that, right? Now, fortunately, after that week and a half that I spent with the carrier, going back and forth, making numerous phone calls, sending numerous emails, we were able to reach that person, at the customer's location, talk to, them and find out who the originating broker was. I've told this story before, but this is just one of many. And like I said, all of these examples they're so similar. And we ended up getting it resolved. The broker paid the carrier, right? But they really failed in their vetting process, right? And had they vetted carrier A on this load, who ended up, giving the load to their buddy broker or whatever, who's a scammer, the rate confirmation looked like it was copy and pasted. It was atrocious, right? Somebody that was just learning Photoshop or something, or just sort of snipping sections of it, and it was crooked and none of the fonts matched, and I mean it was really, really bad, right? If you're a broker and this does happen to you and you find out that your load was double brokered, it's not the end of the world, but this is why we need to stay as vigilant with our vetting processes as we do. It can happen, right? With even all the software and the tools and things that we have, it can still happen, okay? Unfortunately. But, they're always coming up with some new scheme, some new plan, and a lot of these people, they'll buy up these fraudsters, these bad actors, bad apples, whatever you want to call them. They will, have 25 different MCs, right? And they'll just keep going through each one, and then there's another MC, they probably got multiple broker MCs that are illegitimate, right? I've even seen bond companies that were illegitimate, so filing on their bond is not always the best route or a legitimate route, right? If you're a carrier seeking compensation, right, what recourse do you have, right? Which brings me to another point, and I'll get back to the post here in a moment. This is why, if you're need factoring, whether you're a broker or a carrier, utilizing a company like Operfi, right? They have the what's the fuel card that they use? I'm trying to remember. It's the what is it? The TCS fuel card. Sorry, I'm tripping over my tongue here for a minute. They've got the TCS fuel card. They've got consultation, right? And the people that work at Operfi have real world industry experience, right? They've been carriers, they've been brokers, they've been both, some of them, right? they know what it's like. They have consultation services. They've got a vendor network. So, whatever you might need, they've got it there for you. Okay. Um, they've got the tank payments, right? You get the tank card. Just so much. And if you're a new broker, they have carrier vetting partners and TMS partners. They can help you with quick pay to your carriers, which I advise against, even though it is offered. We've talked to Danny about that on a previous show. If you're offering quick pay to your carriers or getting calls from carriers that are saying, hey, I need quick pay, that should be a red flag. Okay? Because I don't know the actual percentage, but you're running a very high risk of that carrier being a double broker, right? They're going to get the paperwork from carrier B, who actually ran the load, right? They're going to get it, turn it in, get quick pay, and then stiff carrier B, right? And now that carrier B's got caught up in a double brokering scenario, and it's bad. If you're a new broker, you don't have a credit score, you don't have days to pay, right? Like none of that's showing up on the load boards. Why should a carrier trust you? Well, Operfi is here to the rescue. They're going to help you build your credit, right? They've got a shipper credit portal, to help you find shippers, check their credit, right? Even before you set up meetings, right? You'll know whether or not they're approved prior to you booking your first load. Okay. For you carriers, again, I mentioned the consultation services that they offer. There's other discounts, the TCS fuel card. They've got a training boot camp, right? If you're brand new. What else am I forgetting? Again, with the vendor network, running the 24/7 credit checks to find out if that broker is approved. Like I said, if that broker, if we vet our brokers as much as brokers vet carriers, posts like the one this evening would not have ever happened, right? You wouldn't have been caught up in a double brokering scenario. If something seems fishy, it usually is. There's a lot of red flags. The rate confirmation not looking right. Look at the bill of lading. Does it have your company name on it? Is there a different broker's name on it? Right? All of these little things that pop up red flags that can help save you from being double brokered. Okay, so we need to pay attention to that. We've talked before about when you sign on with a broker, things to look for in their carrier setup packet in regards to detention and layover, things like this, right? Because there are some broker to carrier setup packets, whether they're online or if they're still using the PDF, that have no mention of accessorials in there at all. Okay, so there's no mention of how much or what the terms are for detention or layover, right? Or driver assist or anything like that. So there's a lot of little pitfalls and things that we can use, that we can avoid, right, by learning and growing and networking and things together, right? And that means having the proper tools like Operfi. If you're looking to find direct customers, right, I recommend eCarrierCheck. Nate and Jared over there, they've got a YouTube channel. Check them out, right? They go over cold calling. They go over like a lot of stuff. And there's other carriers on there that follow their channel as well as brokers, right? And so if you're looking to build your network, really great source for finding direct shippers, building your carrier network, right? Building your broker network. Check it out. We've got a tutorial on it. They've done tutorials on it. It's super economical, especially compared to some of the other tools out there. Okay. So in the scenario here on Facebook, right, they wanted to know what they should do because broker A didn't want to pay them because they paid carrier A, right, already, and they don't want to be out another. They didn't mention how much the load was for, but let's just hypothetically say it was for $2,000. Okay, so in that instance, you're going to want to reach back out to broker A, right, and tell them, hey, look, if you don't pay me, right, what the load was paying originally, then I have no other recourse but to follow up with your customer for payment. Broker A is not going to want you to invoice their customer. Why? Because their customer is going to want to know why they're not paying their carriers. Why are they not vetting their carriers properly? Why did this happen? Why are they receiving an invoice from a carrier? Right? So they're going to pay you, right? Or it would behoove them to, unless they just don't care about losing that customer, perhaps. But odds are they don't want to lose that customer. They want to keep that relationship, right? They want to keep getting loads from that customer. Okay. Bear with me one moment. I know I'm rattling on about 1,000,000 miles an hour here. So, and I'm kind of interested. It's kind of interesting, some of the comments on this. One person commented, that situations like this is why they've stopped offering quick pay altogether, because they've had their loads double brokered on them. They are a broker. They ended up having to get their bank, the police, all kinds of stuff. It's a headache, right? Whether you're a carrier or a broker, being double brokered and getting scammed, huge headache. No matter who you are. Another group member went on to say that there's a very simple solution to this. And let me know if you agree or disagree. I do have the chat open, so I will see it if you want to comment on this. It says there's a very simple solution to this. Every shipper needs to get off their lazy hind end, walk outside and look at the side of the truck picking up the load to verify it is the carrier that booked the load. Seems like a no-brainer to me. I don't know about you, but can we count on that to always happen? Probably not. There's a lot of shippers out there, receivers even. Are you going to verify that that's the right truck delivering the load? If you're a receiver, I mean, we could go on and on with that. They're probably just not going to do it, or they'll do it at random, right? Number two, they went on to state every shipper must disclose the brokerage representing the load to the driver when they arrive for pickup. This is a good idea. Once again, however, if the carrier deadheaded 150 miles, right, and the load you got the broker you got the load from, got tongue tied there for a moment, is not the correct broker, what then? Right? Do you just leave, track down broker A and try to get Tanu or something, or try to rebook the load with broker A? Either way, it's going to take some time, depending upon whether this load was by appointment, whether it's first come, first serve. Is it a late pickup in the day, right? There's a lot of different factors involved there, whether or not you're still going to get that load. Okay. Again, let me know your thoughts on a lot of this while I'm kind of going through it. I have the chat open if you'd like to comment or elaborate on anything. They went on to state this: the only way to force the issue is to charge the shipper and make them pay for the load twice. I'm not sure what they mean by that. When you do this, the broker may lose the shipper as a customer, and the broker will most likely file a carrier 411 against the carrier, which I'm assuming they mean carrier A, and eventually the carrier won't be able to book any loads and we'll have no idea why. Well, in theory, yes, that would be a beautiful thing to have happen. However, not all brokers look at 411. Not all brokers vet their carriers the same way. They might not see that watch guard, right? And that carrier A, that fraudulent carrier, most likely doesn't care. After a while, if they're not able to book any more loads, they've got 24 other MCs that they're going to book loads with, right? Because they're not just doing this as a one-off. They've got multiple MCs. And 99% of the time, they're not even operating inside the U.S. So what are you going to do? This is why vetting is so important before it ever even gets to that point. And I've said this before, is that I believe that the FMCSA should do better checks before they issue authority, right, to a broker or a carrier, right? Because I've seen too many times where addresses have gone to a church, PO boxes, apartment buildings, an abandoned house, you name it. I've seen it. Okay. So, are you really operating out of, the Addams Family mansion? No, of course not. Right. Oh, yes, we're operating, that's our address. That's where we live. That's where we work. That's where our trucks are. Well, I'm looking at Google Street View. I'm looking, satellite. No, you're not. Go play games somewhere else because I don't have time for it. Okay. All right. So let's see. What are some of the other comments on this here? Clueless, really tell your customer for 25 years, deal with it. Goodbye, customers, and the worst broker. GJ, nice advice. I'm not sure who they're referring to. Anyone that wants quick pay, see ya. I give carriers with high MC a chance once they post my load on the list and it's long. I have no idea what they meant. If they want to go back and edit that or something, I almost made my brain hurt trying to figure that out. Let's see. Well, this person I am going to give a shout out to, Shane, just commented on this post in the group. Operfi is absolutely the best. Been working with the team at Operfi since 2018. Have dealings with them every day. Great company and cares about carriers. Absolutely. Thanks, Shane. I really can't say enough. And that is one of the things that comes up when you talk to anybody that has been using Operfi, or, you talk to them, 6 months, a year later after they've been using Operfi. And that's one of the things that I always end up hearing, is that they're very trustworthy, right? That they're completely transparent. They actually care about your business. You're not just a number to them, right? Because they want to see you grow. As you grow, they grow, right? Isn't that kind of how it's supposed to work? It works with our in our relationships with brokers working with their customers. Part of their job is to be a problem solver and help make things be more efficient, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And so that your customer grows. If your customer grows, you inevitably end up with more freight, right? Same thing with building your carrier relationships, right? Or your carrier to broker relationships. When you help the other one, right? Maybe, okay, let's use this scenario right now. Is that, let's say, ABC broker, right, works with XYZ owner operator, twice a week on some, regular loads that they have. They pay a fair rate, right, that helps keep that carrier profitable. Okay. They're building that relationship. And after a period of time, that carrier, XYZ carrier, that owner operator might have ambitions to add another truck, hire a driver, right? Get another dry van or a reefer or whatever equipment type that they're running, right? Not everybody started off with the money and the capital to start a fleet of 50 or something. You know what I mean? So that's why these relationships are so important. I can't stress that enough. I build my relationships. I hold them secure like a mother hen, right? whether you're a customer or a carrier of mine. You know, I actually had one of my carriers call me the other day. They've got a substantially sized fleet, ran into a problem with not getting Tanu, right? Wasn't even my load, but they reached out to me and I assisted them with that. Did I have to do that? No, you know, but I tracked down, because they were having trouble. I helped track down the appropriate person, the phone number, you know, and email to reach out to get that resolved, right? So it's sometimes it's those little things. What did it take me 3 minutes to do that for them, right? It was 3 minutes out of my day to strengthen my relationship with my carrier, right? And I use them every week. Every week I use that carrier, right? And I've had carriers in the past that were owner operators or 2 or 3 trucks. Before you know it, in like a year, they're building up. Now they've got 5 trucks, right? And now they've got more available capacity, you know, that they want to run more loads with me. Hey, Tim, if we can, you know, pick these loads up, you know, let me know what else you have available. If you have more of these per day, we'll do them, right? So it's things like that. And I don't, and this helps me fight fraud, right, in the industry, because now I'm not working on the load boards like the Wild Wild West. Do I still use them? Of course I do, right? Do I use them very often? No. Because I use a lot of the same carriers. I've established that relationship. I trust them. They trust me, and it helps me avoid fraud, right? Because I know who they are. When we start getting into a synergy mindset and building relationships instead of this us versus them mentality, right? And I mean, we've run into situations before where, you know, we had a dedicated outbound lane trying to find, something coming back so that we could put together a dumbbell. I've had my carrier say, hey, there's this company over there. It's like 3 miles down the road from where we're delivering. Not sure if you're aware of it or not, but we've delivered there before. Here's the person's name and phone number. If you can get in there with them, we'll go pick those loads up, because I know that they've got freight coming right back within 10 miles of, us picking up again. Right. Or I may end up picking up I've picked up a customer, in past years where their rates were enough for the carrier to be profitable. There just wasn't any meat left on the bone for myself. And I said, you know what? I said, if you'd like, I'll pass on the customer's direct information. And, if you want to get set up with them directly, I've handed over direct customers to carriers. And you're like, Tim, you're a broker. Why? What are you doing? Sure, I could probably go to the load board, beat up some unsuspecting carrier, right? Still make money on it. They make a little bit, they make less. I take my 10, 15, 20% off the top, whatever, depending. For what? I strengthen my relationship with that carrier that I know and trust, and they still work with me. Right? It's all about networking and building relationships. This will help you against fraud, bar none. Okay. I understand that not every shipper has enough freight that you can put the same carriers on it regularly, but when you can, and if they're not, reach out to them and say, hey, I've got this really great carrier that's been running these loads when you've got them available. If you have more of them, they have more trucks, right? They'll give you more freight. That helps your carrier out, and everybody's happy. Everybody's getting profitable, right? Again, if anybody wants to comment on anything that I'm saying, anything you'd like to add, if you want to disagree with me, if you have a different, thought process on how a lot of this works, by all means, just keep it clean if you're going to attack me. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I believe in it. When I first started out in the industry, it was, just do this, just do that, with the first brokerage that I was ever at as an agent. Right. And they didn't care about relationships. Just get it done, make profit, as much profit as possible. Right. And I was having a hard enough time trying to find customers at the time because I didn't have a sales background, right? So I struggled to get customers when I first started. In fact, my first carrier relationship, I got my first customer. It was reefer. I was hauling floral. Okay, so plants, flowers, that kind of thing for a shipper, and they were partial loads. And I found a local carrier, and we actually spent some time on the phone, and they kind of gave me a little bit better insight as to, the working on of things and that. And it really helped me out a lot, and it kind of clicked with me. And I'm like, you know what? They didn't cover any of that in my training. They said that they would mentor me, but they're not covering any of this. And it was like, it just sort of clicked, and I'm like, it would behoove me to build my relationships, right, with this carrier and other carriers as well, right? Them helping me and me helping them, it works. Okay. And I know that there's other channels out there that, 99% broker bad, or we don't need brokers, they're just a bunch of backstabbing, scamming, blah, 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 blah. And they go on and on and on and on, and they don't understand how supply and demand works. They don't understand that, there's times when brokers take a loss on a load, right? And if you followed my videos, I've got customers, one in particular, I've moved one load for them in probably 6-7 months. Why? Because if I know that this particular lane that I run for other customers as well pays $2,000, that's what I need to get to pay my carrier, right? Because I have that relationship with them. And I'm not asking for pie in the sky, $5-6 a mile rates. No, but enough for them to be profitable. And then, leave a little something on the bone for me as well, right? Because, my relationships also come at a cost, right? You want my carriers that are reliable. They've got good equipment. They're beautiful with their communication. Some of you, and I wish, I'd give them a shout out, but to be honest with you, I protect them like a mother hen, and I don't want anybody taking my carriers away from me. So, but no, they'll come back and they'll go, oh no, we can't, we can't do 2,200. We really need to be at like 15 on this. Click. I'm done. Conversation ends. And it's been that way. And I tried. They're not budging, right? Lo and behold, of course, they're using, they've got a handful of other brokers that they're working with. And some of them are 3-letter names. Some of them are Moon and Star, and, this and that. I'm sure you kind of know what I'm talking about there, who I'm talking about. And, yeah, I'm just, that's not me. I'm not here to put carriers out of business. I'm here to build relationships with them, right? And so, like I said, but anywho, vet your brokers, carriers. Okay, vet your brokers. I cannot stress that enough. And if you're especially if you're a new broker, or you've been in the industry for a year or two, and you're not doing everything you can to vet your carriers, you're opening yourself up for fraud. Okay, for being double brokered, and that's going to put some other unsuspecting carrier at risk. Okay, this all has a trickle effect. Okay, so when we do our job, that helps protect somebody else, right? So another thing I want to bring up is the phishing emails. Pay attention to those phishing emails, okay? Because, and you might have security on your email, but it doesn't always catch it. Sometimes you'll get those ones that slip through and they look legitimate. And like I said, they'll change the email just enough to where it has like a hyphen in it, a dot. They'll might change it instead of at blah, 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 xyztrucking.com. It'll be at xyztrucking.net, right? So it looks legitimate, but it's not, right? It's just like we had those fraudulent emails that look like they came from DAT or Internet Truck Stop, right? But they weren't, but they were using that to gain access to carriers' accounts and stealing their information and putting them out of business. And there were carriers, they spent thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars getting it fixed, right? And some, because of the way the industry has been the last couple of years, and they've lost so much. Maybe they got in toward the tail end of, when things were still good during the pandemic, that they didn't they didn't build up enough, right? They didn't have that opportunity before everything sort of went downhill on us, and inevitably they couldn't fight it and ended up putting them out of business. And I hate to see that happen, right? That's the whole point of us having the group and the channels, because I'd like to see everybody succeed and grow, right, and build those relationships and network and things. And I know I get a little preachy about it, but it just, and maybe it shouldn't bother me as much as it does, but when I hear all this hatred and how brokers and carriers can't work together and stuff on some of the other platforms and things, I scratch my head and I think, man, who peed in your Wheaties, right? Like, come on. It doesn't have to be that way. And you can find out that by establishing those relationships can be a very beautiful thing, right? Bear with me. So, what are some other things that we've been looking at as far as fraud in the industry? I mean, because there's no shortage of it, and every time it seems like we combat one thing, something else comes out. Okay. And again, the vetting software that we use, they stopped individuals from 75 other countries from gaining access. 75 other countries, right? So, and as a quick little history lesson, just a quick little blip for those of you that may not know, double brokering has actually been around for a long, long, long time, right? And it was usually a legitimate carrier who, for whatever reason, accidentally overbooked. They would double broker the load to another carrier, but they always paid them, right? There was like this time period of like honesty in the industry, right? And people didn't scam each other. We also didn't have all this outside influence from other countries, right, that were sneaking in and attacking us, right? And I believe, the internet and technology and things has probably helped that become more of a thing for them. But it's always happened. But everybody got paid, right? Or a majority of them, 99% of them got paid. It was never really like an issue, okay? But now that we've got all these other outside entities and things, it's just it's gotten rampant, and they'll make up every excuse in the world, and you'll call them, and it's bad, but yeah, watch out for each other, okay? Whether you're a carrier or a broker, do your due diligence. Again, like I said, if you don't have Operfi, they're not trying to reinvent the wheel with factoring, right? When I talked to Tom, the owner over there, and Danny, they said, factoring is factoring for the most part, right? They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. But what they are doing is providing you with the tools and the resources, right? And the industry knowledge, especially if you're brand new, to grow and be more successful. And that's one of the things I really love about Operfi. Right. And that's another thing I love about the people like Nate and Jared over at eCarrierCheck, right? They genuinely care about this industry and, the brokers and carriers that work in it. Okay. So, anybody got anything that they would like to add to this topic? I know I've been kind of rambling on at 100 miles an hour here for the last, almost 40 minutes now. But yeah, it's stop doing quick pay. Okay, you're opening yourself up. Pay attention to your paperwork. If you're a carrier and maybe you forgot to check the broker's credit, it might happen, right? In today's day and age, everything's go, hustle, and it could be an oversight, right? But pay attention to that paperwork when you get it, right? That rate confirmation, make sure it looks legit. Okay. This is another thing, and this doesn't necessarily have to do with fraud, but it might help you, is that if you're a carrier and you're going to a shipper, and especially if it's by appointment, right, it would behoove you to call that shipper and verify that that appointment has been set if it wasn't on your shoulders to begin with to set it, right? Usually when I have loads that are by appointment, whether it's for pickup, delivery, or both, and we have the ability, sometimes there's a system that we have to get logged into, and the carrier doesn't have the ability to do this on their own. But when we do, and it's just a phone call, or an email away, sometimes I'll say, if you don't know quite exactly when, you want to pick up, you can schedule, but let me know, CC me on that email, or whatever. And usually I'll verify, follow up, or I'll have them on the phone with me when I call over to set up the appointment. Okay, because there's too many times I've read too many posts and things, gotten calls, and just in conversation about, I arrived for my 1 p.m. Pickup appointment. Come to find out, they never scheduled the appointment, and they're going to try to squeeze me in before 8 p.m. if possible. So do I just leave? Do I stay and request attention? You know what I mean? And there's been times where maybe they're an unscrupulous broker, because I'm not saying all brokers are good. There's some out there that are really, really bad. Maybe they're using that time to find a cheaper carrier, right? Or maybe another carrier called them on the load, because I've had this happen to me on the loads that I do post to the board. I'll have just booked it, take it down off the load board. My phone's still ringing. Hey, I'm calling about that load out of Dallas or whatever. Yep, sorry, just got it covered. Well, what'd you pay on that? So and I hate to even tell them, but I tell them, and they go, oh, you paid 25 on that? Well, I'll do it for 23. I really need that load. I'm sorry. I can't do it. If anything else comes in, I'll be more than happy to give you a call, but I'm not going to drop my carrier to rebook a load for $200, because that $200 that I made, right, is going to destroy the relationship that I had with that other carrier, right? And it's not worth it to me, right? A quick $200 versus long term having that reliable carrier there with me. It's not worth it in the long run. So I don't do it. I know that there's some out there that do, but anywho, I got a little off topic there. But yeah, always call to verify your appointment. Okay, check Google reviews. Okay, and I might be getting a little off topic here with some of this, but check Google reviews of that shipper and and the receiver if possible. Because I've seen some truckers, drivers, you guys are beautiful. I love y'all. You guys love to leave Google reviews, and I thank you for it, because when I am going through and looking for new prospects, one of the first things I do is I check Google reviews, and I look to see what you guys have to say, right? If it's, again, using our example of a 1 p.m. Pickup appointment, got here at 12:55. They said, yep, we'll get you a door here shortly. Okay, fine. It's now 3 o'clock. I still don't have a door. 4 o'clock, I finally got a door. It's now 8 o'clock. I'm still not loaded, right? If you're a carrier watching this right now, it may have happened to you, right? And you might be kind of chuckling to yourself or yeah, I remember that ABC shipper, or whatever. But that's why I pay attention to those reviews. If they've got, especially if it's a ton of recent reviews with that type of thing, where they're slow to load or they're ignorant to drivers, or, no, you can't use the facilities, things like that. If they're very rude, guess what? I'm not calling them. I don't want them as my customer. I'm not putting my carriers in there and running into issues with them. Again, mother hen, I protect them. Okay, so I don't want those phone calls. I don't like mishaps. I understand that there's certain things that can happen and that, that are out of our control, whether it's mechanical breakdowns and transit, whatever, right? Those problems we can deal with. But if we know beforehand that there's a likelihood of problems going into it, nah, I don't want it. Okay, so things like this that you can do to help protect yourself, right? And especially, and I say this because when you're filling out those broker carrier packets and there's no mention of accessorials, right? Going back to our most recent example, you got a 1 p.m. pickup, 8 o'clock, you finally got out of there, right? By the time you got a door and they got you loaded, blah, blah, blah. It's now 8 o'clock, so you spent 7 hours at pickup, right? And you're getting a hold of your broker saying, hey, man, then, where's that Raycon? I'm getting ready to start rolling. I've got these hours of detention. Oh, yeah, fine. We'll look into that for you. Why? Because they have no accessorial policy in their agreement. Okay? Nothing in there for driver assist, nothing in there for layover, nothing in there for tonneau. Okay? And to say it's an oversight, I'm going to say probably not. Right? They did that on purpose. Okay? So before you just bloop, 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 go through and sign and not read. And I always use this example. You wouldn't take out a car loan or buy a house or anything like that without reading the paperwork, right? This is your business. Take care of it, okay? So make sure you're reading that paperwork. And I understand that some of those contracts can be a little bit lengthy, but at least at a bare minimum, skim over it. Look over those important sections, right? Find out what your rights are, okay? So just a few things there. Been going on 46 and a half minutes now. There's probably a few other things that I could touch on, but honestly, my voice is getting kind of sore here. And so unless somebody else has anything else that they would like to add, or mention about what I've talked about, or if you have an idea for an upcoming video that you'd like me to talk about, like I said, usually when I do my videos, it's usually whether it's something new that's happened in the news, or if it's something that I'm noticing kind of a trend on, right? Like this video. It just seems like lately, here we go again. I'm talking to numerous other carriers or brokers that have had it happen to, and then lo and behold, we start having posts in the group with an unfortunate carrier that got double brokered. So I hope that if you watch this video and this happened to you, you know how to approach that going forward, or maybe you're in the middle of it right now. It helps you out. And again, let me pop up my email for anybody that might want to reach out to me at any time. I do keep this email monitored very frequently. So if you have any questions or anything like that, you want to reach out to me, by all means, email me, and I'll do my best to respond. If you email me at 3 o'clock in the morning, I probably am not going to answer you till I get up. So unless I'm up extremely late, which sometimes I am, I don't really sleep. So anywho, with that being said, I hope everybody's having a great rest of the week. Tomorrow's Friday, right? TGIF. And if I don't talk to you again tomorrow, everybody have a great weekend as always. Be kind to one another, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye now.